All right, Wildcats, so we're going to get ready for our last test of the quarter. I'm going to take you through the review sheet. Pause the video whenever you need. Feel free to ask me questions tomorrow in class if you have any. So on the test, some things you're going to have to be able to do without any help from me is you'll need to be able to create your unit circle from scratch. We've practiced this a lot. Go watch the videos again if you need to. You need to be able to use the unit circle that you created to find exact values. When they ask you to find exact values, they're asking for those ordered pairs around the circle. You need to know that when you see this word coterminal, if it's in degrees, you're going to add and subtract 360. If it's in radians, you're going to add and subtract 2 pi. You need to know that to convert degrees to radians, that you need to multiply by pi over 180. And when they want you to go from radians to degrees, you're going to multiply by 180 over pi. Again, I will not be able to give you these two conversions. You need to know them before you walk in the room. You need to be able to use whatever formulas I give you for arc length and area of a sector. Again, I will give you the formulas. You just have to know how to use them. You also need to be able to graph the trig function sine, cosine, and tangent. So this is how the formulas are going to look on your test. It'll say on your test in radians, S equals r theta. You have to know that S means arc length, R means radius, and theta is your angle. It'll say A equals 1/2 r squared theta. You need to know that A is the area, R is your radius, and theta is your angle. And you're going to use either one of these formulas if your theta is in radians. That means the pi's. If your theta is in degrees, then the S arc length formula is your angle theta times pi times your radius r, all divided by 180. So you'll need to plug in and then you'll need to reduce. A, again, stands for area, so finding area of a sector in degrees, you're going to have your theta, whatever the angle is they give you, times pi, times your radius squared, divided by 360. And again, you're going to have to be able to reduce. So again, on the test, you need to know everything up here on your own, and then I will be giving you these 4 formulas, but you have to know what all the letters mean. I can't tell you the day of the test. So what I would do right now is I would pause the video. I would use the space down here to write down your unit circle and see how well you do. Time yourself, give yourself anywhere from 5 to 6 minutes, and then pull out your unit circle and check your work. All right, so hopefully you've drawn your unit circle already. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. This is what your answer sheet's going to look like tomorrow. You'll have a multiple choice section, and then you're going to have this big unit circle template to fill in. And you just fill this in. I'm not going to grade it. It's only for you. So if you'll notice, I filled in all my degrees. I filled in all my radians. But I only filled in the ordered pairs for quadrant 1, and I only filled in the tangents for quadrant 1. Because I know if I know quadrant 1, I really know all of them. I just have to remember that I'm negative, positive in quadrant 2, negative, negative in quadrant 3, and positive, negative in quadrant 4. But it's up to you. If you'd rather fill every single thing in, then that's what you need to do. Okay, so let's actually go to the review sheet and practice doing some problems. So on 1 through 24 in the first section, it says find the exact value. There are a few of y'all today during the quiz that you didn't know what this means. When they ask you to find the exact value, they're asking you to use your unit circle, and they're trying to see if you remember that sine is referring to the y's, cosine is referring to your x's, and when they ask you for your tangents, they're referring to the y's divided by the x's. So I'm going to do a couple of these in each row just to make sure you get it, and then we'll pause the video and you'll come back and check your work. So the first one says sine of 225 degrees. So they want to know when y is equal, they want to know what is y at 225 degrees. So you're going to go look at your unit circle. You're going to find 225 degrees, and you're going to tell me what your y is right here. So here's 225 degrees down here. And my y value at 225 degrees is negative root 2 over 2. And that's all you had to do. Negative root 2 over 2. Sine of 300 is going to work the same way, so I'll let you try that in just a second. Let's go look at cosine of pi. You're supposed to know that cosine means x. And you're going to go to your circle and find pi. Pi's right over here. And the x value at pi is negative 1. So the answer for that is negative 1. There's another sine, another cosine, another cosine. So y, x, X, Y, X, Y. So why don't you pause the video and try 1 through 18, where all you do is go around the circle. Every time it says sine, I want you to find the Y value, and every time it says cosine, I want you to find the X value. So one more time, go pause the video and try 1 through 18, and then I want you to check back. Okay, so you should have done 1 through 18 by now, so let's go check the answers. So at 300 degrees, my Y value is negative root 3 over 2. At pi over 2, my Y value is 1. At 5 pi over 6, my cosine value is a negative root 3 over 2. At cosine of 2 pi, the X value is equal to 1. At 225 degrees, my Y value is equal to negative root 2 over 2. I accidentally repeated right here. At pi over 3, my X value is equal to 1/2. At 210 degrees, my Y value is equal to negative 1/2. At 135 degrees, the X value is equal to negative root 2 over 2. At 3 pi over 2, the X value is equal to 0. At 11 pi over 6, the Y value is equal to negative 1/2. At 30 degrees, the Y value is equal to positive 1/2. At 240 degrees, the X value is equal to negative 1/2. At pi, the Y value is equal to 0. At pi over 6, the X value is equal to root 3 over 2. At 5 pi over 6, the Y value is equal to 1/2. And at 2 pi, the Y value is equal to 0. So as long as you are aware that your sine is your Y value and your cosine is your X value, 1 through 18 shouldn't be a big deal. Now let's go look at 19, 20, and 21. On these three problems, they're all dealing with negative angles. So all you have to remember is when you see a negative angle, we need to go the opposite direction. So sine still means Y, and they want me to do negative 45 degrees. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find where positive 45 is. So positive 45 is right here. And that was 1, 2 above the 0. So now I'm going to go 2 below the 0. I'm going to go the opposite direction. 1, 2. And then I'm going to find my sine value right there. Sine value is negative root 2 over 2. Okay, so let's go do another one of these together. Remember, cosine means X. So I'm looking for the X value at negative 5 pi over 6. So first I'm going to go find positive 5 pi over 6. So positive 5 pi over 6 is over here in quadrant 2. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the 0. So I'm going to go 7 the opposite way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to be right here at 210 degrees. And they wanted to know the cosine, and cosine is the X. So it's negative root 3 over 2. Negative root 3 over 2. All right, last one in this row. They want to know sine, which is Y, of negative 270. So first we're going to go find positive 270, which is right here at the very bottom. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 from 0. So I'm going to go 12 the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And they wanted the sine value, and sine right here is positive 1. So the answer is positive 1. 22 through 24 are all asking me for my tangents. So I have to remember when I'm doing these problems down here, your tangent is your Y value divided by your X value. So they want me to do tangent of 300 degrees. So I go to my circle. At 300 degrees, my Y is negative 1/2 and my X is root 3 over 2. So I have negative 1/2 divided by root 3 over 2. And then we're going to remember our silly little rhyme. Dividing fractions as easy as pi. We're going to flip the second and multiply. Well, when I multiply, these 2's cancel out, and I have negative 1 over root 3. And that's our dun-dun-dun trashy math. So I multiply top and bottom by root 3. Negative 1 times root 3 is negative root 3. Root 3 times root 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way you can do it, and it's totally up to you, is you can have your tangents memorized and you can write them on your circle before you start. So I can see right here that I already knew that tangent at all the 6's is root 3 over 3. And if you're in quadrant 4, we know that you have a positive negative, so I know my tangent would be negative here. And again, we'd get the same answer, negative root 3 over 3. It's your choice how you want to do it. All right, now they want me to do tangent at 5 pi over 4. 5 pi over 4 is down here in quadrant 3. And I'm going to have my y divided by my x. So I'm going to have negative root 2 over 2 divided by negative root 2 over 2. And hopefully you're going to work smarter, not harder. Anything divided by itself is 1, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive 1. Last one, number 24, they want tangent at 5 pi over 6. 5 pi over 6 is right here in quadrant 2, so I'm going to have 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. So I have, if you'll notice, these same two numbers, and since I have these exact same two numbers, I'm going to get the same answer. So I'm going to have, but this time because I have a positive, oh wait, that's a negative, sorry. A positive divided by a negative, I should get the exact same answer because it's still a positive divided by a negative. So negative root 3 over 3. Okay, so hopefully that was nice and easy and you understand it and you're going to get it right on your test. Okay, so the next section, I wanted you to draw these angles. I kind of struggled with this on your test, your quiz, maybe because it was just so easy. So when we learned how to do these, I said you always draw your XY axis. Your first ray is called your initial ray, and it goes on the positive x-axis. 30 degrees lies in quadrant 1. I draw an arrow, say that I go this direction because I want a positive 30 degrees. 135 degrees is going to be in quadrant 2, and it's right smack in the middle. So I would just go like this, showing the direction that I'm going, and I'd write 135 degrees. 320 degrees is going to be over here in quadrant 4. So I'm going to go like this. And 320 is not on my circle, but I know it's right after 315. So it's going to be about right there. And then I'm going to write 320 degrees. 420 degrees is actually going to go around my circle more than once. So when you go around your circle more than once, you got to be careful. So one time around is 360. So how much more do I have to go in order to get to 420? So I know it's going to be in here. I'm showing that I went around more than once. The whole thing is 420, and I just went 60 more, because 360 plus 60 is 420. Okay, so again, you need to know that sine is y, cosine is x, tangent is y divided by x. If you don't know your unit circle, you will not be able to answer anything through 24. On 1 through 4 at the bottom, when you had to draw, they were just making sure that you know that it counterclockwise is positive, and one time around the circle is 360. Okay, so again, unit circle is super important. Let's go look at the next section. So in this section, it says find two angles, one positive and one negative, that are coterminal. When you see this word on your test, you have to know if it's in degrees, we're going to go add 360 and then subtract 360. And if it's in radians, we're going to go add 2 pi and subtract 2 pi. So on number 1, this is degrees. So I'm going to go add 360 to 10 and get 370. And then I'm going to subtract 360 and get negative 350. And it's not any harder than that. That's really as easy as it is. So don't make this super complicated. So pause the video real quick and go try the next two. Go try this one and this one, and they work exactly the same way. Right, so hopefully right here when you added, you got 460, and when you subtracted, you should have gotten negative 260. When you added 360 to 30, you should have had 390, and when you subtracted, you should have gotten negative 330. On 4, there's a 5 missing here. On 4, 5, and 6, notice these all have pi's in them, so we're going to be adding and subtracting 2 pi. So 1 pi plus 2 pi is 3 pi, and 1 pi take away 2 pi is negative 1 pi. You're going to do the exact same thing for 6 and 7, so pause the video, come back and check your answers. Okay, so when you go add 2 pi to this one, you have to remember to put it over 1, and then we have to get a common denominator of 2. So we end up having pi over 2 plus 4 pi over 2. And when you add fractions, just add the tops. So I get 5 pi over 2. And then we're going to work smarter, not harder. We're going to do the exact same problem, but now I'm going to subtract. 1 pi take away 4 is negative 3 pi over 2. We're going to do the exact same thing right here on number 7. We're going to add 2 pi over 1. I need a common denominator, so I multiply top and bottom by 3. So I'm going to have pi over 3 plus 6 pi over 3. 1 pi plus 6 pi is 7 pi's over 3. And then I'm going to subtract. 1 pi take away 6 pi is negative 5 pi over 3. So one more time, recapping. When you see the word coterminal, you have to know to add and subtract 360 if it's in degrees. And then if you see pi's, you need to add and subtract 2 pi. If you raise your hand and ask me during the test what this means, I cannot answer. You need to know that. Okay. This section says convert the angles in degrees to radians. So you have to remember that if they give you degrees and they want you to change it to radians, you have to multiply each one of these by pi over 180. Okay, so when I do this, top times top, bottom times bottom, and then you have to reduce. So 30 will go into 180. If you don't know how to do that really quick, you can get rid of your zeros first. And then I have 3 over 18, and 3 goes into 18 6 times. So your answer is pi over 6. Okay, let's do one more together, and then you can try the next two. Same thing. I'm going to multiply by pi over 180, top times top, bottom times bottom, and then I'm going to reduce. 6 will go into 18 3 times, but there's a 0, so it's pi over 30. Okay, pause the video real quick and go try the next two. Same steps. Okay, you've come back from trying it on your own, and you have 160 pi over 180. The zeros go away, and then I can divide both of these by 2, and 2 will go into 16 8 times, and 2 will go into 18 9 times. And I think that problem was on your quiz yesterday. I'm going to do it one more time. Now, some of y'all probably don't even need to do it for this one, because if you already know your unit circle, you know that 90 degrees is exactly the same as pi over 2, and this does reduce to pi over 2. All right, so when they ask you to convert from degrees to radians, you have to know to multiply by pi over 180. Next section, they want you to convert the radians to degrees. So this time, you're going to do the opposite. We're going to multiply by 180 over pi. When we multiply by 180 over pi, you're going to see that my pi's cancel out, and I have 180 over 3, and 3 will go into 180 60 times, 60 degrees. Let's do it once more. So I'm going to do the same thing, 180 over pi. These will cancel out, so all I have is 180 over 9. 9 goes into 18 twice, and I bring down my 0. We get 20 degrees. All right, pause the video, and you go try the next two. Okay, so I'm assuming you've tried these now. So you get 180 over 12. Those canceled, and 12 will go into 180 15 times, 15 degrees. One more time, we have 180 over pi. These cancel. So we have 180 over 18. I believe this one was on your quiz yesterday. 18 goes into 180 10 times, 10 degrees. Okay. On 1 through 8, if you have your unit circle on the front of your answer sheet, these are not difficult. All we're doing is working backwards. This time I'm telling you that cosine is equal to 1/2, and I want to know where does it happen. So cosine is my x, so I want to know where on the circle does the x value equal a positive 1/2. So if I'm looking at my circle, x is positive 1/2 at 60 degrees. It's negative 1/2 here, so not it. It's negative 1/2 over here, so not it. It's positive 1/2 here. So I have two answers. X equals positive 1/2 at 60 degrees and 300 degrees. So I put them both down. Okay, let's go do a sign together. Sign means y, so I want to know where on the circle does the y value equal a positive √3 over 2. So y values are the second ones. So not it, not it, not it. Here we go. 60 degrees. And then I need another one. Oh, and at 120. Down here at the bottom, it's a negative. I don't want a negative, and another negative. So my positive root 3 over 2 for the y's happen at 60 and 120. 60 degrees and 120 degrees. And all of those work exactly the same. So again, pause the video, go try these, and then come back and check with me. All right, so hopefully you've finished these, and we've got 45 degrees and 315 degrees. Again, we picked these two because that's where x is equal to a positive root 2 over 2. When y is 1/2, we're at 30 degrees and 150 degrees. When my x value is equal to a positive root 3 over 2, that's going to happen at 30 degrees and 330 degrees. My y value is going to be a negative root 2 over 2 at 225 degrees and 315 degrees. My x value is a negative 1/2 when I'm at 120 degrees and when I'm at 240 degrees. My x value is equal to negative 1 at only one spot, 180 degrees. So again, we're just using our circle. You have to know that cosine is x and sine is y. So hopefully you've noticed by now we've used this circle a lot on the review sheet. So if you don't know your circle, you're going to have a hard time with your test. Okay, so let's go look at the last page. On the last page, it says find the 6 trig functions. And they give you radians and degrees, and guess where all these come from again? They come right off the unit circle. So when they ask you for sine, we already said that's your y, your cosine is x, and your tangent is y divided by x. Now these are the reciprocal, the inverse function. So what you have to remember to do is just flip your answers. You have to remember sine goes with cosecant, cosine goes with secant, and cotangent goes with tangent. So whatever I get for these answers, I'm just going to flip them. So let's go find 3/4 on my circle. 3 pi over 4 is right here. And they want to know sine first. So sine is the y value. So it's root 2 over 2. To get cosecant, I simply flip it upside down. And dun dun dun, trashy math. I'm going to fix my trashy math. Multiply top and bottom by root 2. And I get 2 root 2 over 2, which cancels. So all I have is root 2. Okay, let's go do it again. They want cosine. Well, cosine right here is a negative root 2 over 2. And then we're just going to flip it. Well, we just flipped this exact same answer, except now it's negative. So again, let's work smarter, not harder. I've already flipped root 2 over 2. So I know when I flip it, I'm going to get a negative square root of 2. And they want me to find tangent, so I'm going to divide the y by the x. Smarter, not harder. Anything divided by itself is 1, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative. If I flip negative 1, it's still negative 1. Okay, let's go do one more of these together. Let's go do 210 degrees. So I go to 210. Remember, sine is my y, cosine is my x. So the sine at 210 degrees was negative 1/2. To get cosecant, I flip it and I get negative 2. Cosine is negative root 3 over 2. I'm going to flip it and get negative 2 over root 3. Dun dun dun. Trashy math. I'm going to go fix it. And I get negative 2 root 3 over 3. Tangent, I'm going to take my y and my x and divide them. So I'm going to have negative 1/2 divided by negative root 3 over 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. And dividing fractions is easy as pie. I'm going to flip the second and multiply. So I get 1 over root 3. Dun dun dun. Trashy math. And I get root 3 over 3. When I flip root 3 over 3, I get 3 over root 3. Dun dun dun. Trashy math again. Multiply top and bottom. I get 3 root 3 over 3. The 3's cancel, and I'm left with root 3. On number 3, they want me to find all the things I just did, but they want me to do it for negative pi over 2. So if positive pi over 2 is up top, then negative pi over 2 is down here. So this is my cosine, and this is my sine. So sine is negative 1. If you flip negative 1, it's still negative 1. Cosine is 0. If you flip 0, I get 1 over 0, which is undefined. This was on your quiz yesterday. Tangent is your y divided by your x, so negative 1 divided by 0 is undefined, but if I flip it, I get 0. In the next section, they want me to do the same thing, except here's the difference. None of these are on the unit circle. So I know they're not on the unit circle because 3 and 4 and 12 and 5 are all numbers bigger than 1. So when you see a problem like this on the test, I called these XYR problems in class. And we know that the equation for a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. This equation will not be on your test. You have to know this. So I know that this is x and this is y. I'm going to go find r. So negative 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. So r is equal to 5. So x is negative 3, y is 4, r is 5. Now I'm going to go plug into the ratios. Again, these ratios will not be on your test. You have to know them. So sine is my y value divided by my r, so 4 over 5. Cosecant says to flip it. Cosine is my x value over my r, so negative 3 over 5. Secant means to flip it. Tangent is the y divided by the x. And then cotangent means to flip it. And you're done. So when it's not on the unit circle, you have to go do an x, y, r problem. We're going to go do it again. So this is not on the circle. I'm going to go plug into my x squared plus y squared equals r squared again. 12 squared is 144. Yes, you're supposed to know that. Negative 5 squared is 25. When I add these two numbers, I get 169. The square root of 169 is 13. So x, y, and r. Sine is y over r, so negative 5 over 13. And then cosecant tells me to flip it. Cosine is your x over your r. And then secant tells me to flip it. Oops, I messed up, guys. This is 12 over 13. I don't know why I put a 5 there. And this is going to be 13 over 12. My fault. And tangent is your y over your x. So it's negative 5 over 12. And then I'm going to flip it because it says cotangent. And that's it. But again, it's more stuff that you have to know. You have to know this formula to find r. If you raise your hand and ask me, I can't tell you. You have to know that. Okay, the last section down here on 1 through 5, they want you to use the formulas that are going to be given to you on your test to find arc length and area. So you don't have to memorize these formulas. They're right here. We're just going to practice using them. So number 1 says, find the length S and the area A where theta is equal to pi over 4 and the radius is 5. So I know my theta is pi over 4 and I know my r is equal to 5. Because there's a pi right here, that means my theta is in radians. So I'm going to use these two formulas right here because these are for radians. So S equals r theta. R means radius. So 5 times pi over 4. I'm going to put this over 1. Top times top is 5 pi. Bottom times bottom is 4. And my units are in meters. Done. That's all you had to do. Plug into the formula. To find area, it says I'm going to do 1/2 r squared theta. So 1/2 r squared theta. So 1/2. My r is 5. 5 squared is 25. I'm going to put it over 1. And my theta is still pi over 4. So I'm going to multiply all my tops and get 25 pi. I'm going to multiply my bottom. 2 times 1 times 4 is 8. That cannot be reduced. And because it's area, it's meters squared. Number 2, for a circle with a radius 4, so r is equal to 4, find the arc length. They want me to find S when theta is equal to 30 degrees. Because it says degrees, I have to use this formula. S equals theta pi r over 180. S equals theta pi r over 180. So my theta is 30 pi. My r is 4 over 180. So if I multiply the top to get 120 pi over 180, then I'm going to go reduce. My zeros will go away. 12 over 18 can both be reduced by 6, so I get 2 pi over 3, and my units are in feet. Number 3, S is the length of an arc of a circle of radius r, subtended by a central angle. Find the missing quantity. So they tell me the radius is 5, the S is 3, and they want me to find theta in terms of radians. So if they gave me S, I either need this first equation or the second one. But then they specifically said that they wanted my theta in radians. So now I don't have a choice anymore. I have to use this first formula. So I'm going to use this one right here. I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that S is 3, R is 5, and they want me to go find theta. In order to find theta, I simply need to divide both sides by 5. So theta equals 3/5 of a radian. That's it. Don't make it harder than that. Number 4 wants me to find area, and they gave me my theta in degrees. So I need an area formula. I have 2. The second one over here is the one that's in degrees, so this is the one I have to use. Theta pi r squared over 360. So area equals theta pi r squared over 360. So 30 times pi, 2 squared is 4 over 360. That's going to give me 120 pi over 360. My zeros are going to cancel, and 12 actually will go all the way into 36, and we get pi over 3, and we're doing inches squared because it's area. Okay, last one in this section. They want me to find the area, and they give it to me the theta in degrees again. So I'm going to use the exact same formula I used over here. So I'm going to have 50 times pi, 4 squared is 16, over 360. Now, right here, instead of multiplying 50 times 16, if it's me, I'm going to reduce first. I'm going to go, wait a minute, I've got a 0 here and a 0 here. And I'm going to see 5, 36, and 16. And then I'm going to go, I can divide 4 into both of these. 4 goes into 16 4 times, and 4 goes into 36 9 times. And now I'm going to multiply 5 times 4 and get 20 pi. And I have a 9 left on the bottom. It's in feet, and because it's area, I'm going to square it. All right, at the very bottom, the last thing they want you to do is graph sine, cosine, and tangent. You should be able to graph these from negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. So I've got a negative 2 pi, positive 2 pi. It goes up to 1 and down to negative 1. And for sine, I gave you a little saying. I called sine a mama. Let's talk about what that meant again. It means you start at 0 at the axis. The big M meant max. Back to the axis, down to the minimum, back to the axis. So it looks kind of like that. Okay? And then I forgot to label these. Oops, that's pi, pi over 2. These are right off your unit circle. And 3 pi over 2. And it's going to go this way and do the exact same thing. Okay? Let's go to cosine next, because cosine had a little pattern too. Cosine was not a mama. Cosine was mama M. We're going to go from 0 to 2 pi again, and to negative 2 pi. Remember, these just come right off the unit circle. There's no magic to this. Go up to 1 and down to negative 1. The M stands for cosine starts with the max, hits the axis, minimum, axis, maximum. And the pattern just continues this direction. Tangent didn't have a nice little saying. I just told y'all to remember 0, asymptote, 0, asymptote, 0. right up, left down. So when we go draw this one, it starts at the 0. There's an asymptote at pi over 2, another 0, an asymptote at 3 pi over 2, and then we said right arm up, left arm down, right arm up, left arm down, right arm up, left arm down. Okay, so I know this is a lot of information, guys. That's why I've been telling y'all to study for like the last 2 weeks. If you procrastinated, I'm very sorry because this is going to be a tough test. So hopefully you turned in your assessment early and got some extra points. All right, you may need to watch this video a couple times. Good luck to you. Study hard.